prior to class buy candy. And Michael said, when I get older, I'm going to have one of these too. So he had put together candy to sell to his brothers and his closest friends. And he didn't have customers, so what Michael would do, if he bought a candy bar for 25 cents, he would sell it for a nickel, just so he could have customers. He didn't mind not making money, he just wanted customers.
He always had a good heart, that's for sure.
Business, that's correct.
Tom and Susan, when you took Michael on as a client, did anybody say this is going to be a very, very hard case to win? Or did you feel right from the beginning you could show the world?
One of my closest friends told me, don't ever take the case. You can't win it. He's been convicted all over the world. And if he gets convicted, it's going to define the rest of your life and career. Everywhere you go in the world, they'll say he's the one that sent Michael Jackson to prison. And Susan and I talked about it, and we decided we're in there.
For Michael's in many criminal cases, on paper, clients can look really, really bad. If I'm a prosecutor, I can make anybody look terrible. But the focus for us was to really get to know Michael. That mattered more than the amount of evidence we had in the case. It was just way too much to handle. But for us, the focus was to Michael and getting to know him, and quickly we realized there was no doubt that he was innocent.
That's fantastic. What was the turning point for you and you think the world in that trial?
Well, our approach was to be aggressive from the opening bell. Their first witness was Martin Bashir. They thought he was going to be a good witness.
Let's hear it, come on.
And he was a disaster for the prosecution. He refused to answer questions. He hid behind his attorney who was in court. He claimed journalism privilege. And we just kept going. I just kept asking him questions about Michael Jackson. Questions like, isn't it true he told you repeatedly he would never hurt a child under any circumstances, and he wouldn't answer the questions? And I would repeat it again and again. And I think it was a disastrous way for them to start their case.
And I'll tell you something, one of the fans asked a question of me, what did you find so amazing when you did the research for this? Is that they sent 70 police cars, 70, not even for the Manson murders of Sharon Tate, did they send 70 police cars to the house where she was killed in, and what did they find? They found Playboy, which was a men's magazine, Penthouse, which was a men's magazine, no child porn, no pictures of nude kids, nothing. This man was such a bigot. I mean, I've never seen a man that's a bigger bigot than Mr. Tom Sneddon. And he thought because Michael Jackson, and it's true, because Michael Jackson was black, he wanted to take him down. And I think that was really such a terrible thing, because it doesn't matter what color, race you are, we're all people and we all live together.
The various magazines that I think a lot of people don't know about, and that is, Michael received so many books and magazines from all over the world. And a lot of the so-called Playboy magazines were magazines that he received from others, not that he went out and bought them. And so he had a huge library of all sorts of books, classical to children's books. I mean, he had a library that was bigger than a public library. And in addition to 70 sheriffs who went out to get Michael, the amount of evidence we had in this case was bigger than any huge federal case you can even get. And for us, handling Michael's case was handling like 100 cases all at once. Documentary evidence, audio, video, and the live witnesses. We prepared for over 500 witnesses in that case. It was really, really monumental. And that's what it took for the entire Santa Barbara County to go after Michael. And they only proved that they were wrong, and they were outrageous, and going after somebody as innocent as Michael. And one thing I have to say about Michael, and I'll end quickly, is that Quite frankly, no question he was a big name and still is. Superstar, yes. Who's bigger than Michael? No question. Who's more talented and gifted than Michael? Probably nobody. But you know why he was so special? Aside from all that, underneath it all, he was so decent.
Yeah.
And so modest and humble. And a lot of celebrities you come across, they suffer from narcissism. They think they're entitled to everything. Or there are a lot of people, not just celebrities, but people with money, fame, or perceived money and fame. It's unfortunate people are that way, but you know, I wouldn't be sitting here and talking to you if Michael was a horrible person. Who cares if he was famous and big, if he was a jerk, not a nice person. But he really was a really nice, decent person.
You're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Phoebe, he produced the first two records, Centipede. What was it like working with Mike in the studio?
It was an experience and a half. One of the things that was interesting about recording Centipede was that I learned the song while I was on the set. And periodically throughout recording it, I would forget the lyrics. He didn't care. He wanted the feeling and the attitude. And then, of course, another thing that was interesting is that right during that time was the time when they were planning the Thriller tour. And so as a result, there were all kind of promotional men and people that would come to the studio. So he was trying to produce me while that was taking place. And that was a big circus. But the one thing I remember that was really interesting about Centipede is when he put the song on, and he played it in what he called the biscuits, which were the large speakers. He said, now, if they burst, it's a hit. But he said, if they don't, it's not a hit. So he cranked it up a little, and he started playing it. He got so into it. He jumped up on the console, the back of the console, and he started dancing crazy and screaming, and then, of course, they blew up.
You knew it was a hit. Okay, Tito, what did you think when I Want You Back became your first hit? You'd been on Steeltown in Gary, Indiana. You had a couple records, and finally you hit the big time. What did you think, especially because your mother and your sister Reeve didn't really like the record?
Well, I Want You Back from day one. We had other records. I'm a big boy now with Steeltown Records in Gary, Indiana, but we had worked with Motown, and saying that they put together a brilliant first album for the brothers with I Want You Back, kicking it off into ABC. But we knew it would be a hit. We were so excited. I had a little transistor radio. We were living in Hollywood at the time, and I heard it come on the station. I'll never forget this station, KGFJ. And I ran down screaming, you know, it's on the radio, it's on the radio. So here's five brothers like this and screaming and excited, because we knew with our first record, Big Boy, Steeltown Records was only so big. It was a local record company, and by being in the hands of Motown, we now we're international, and it was a success.
And justifiably so. Great record. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. What is your fondest memory of Michael Jackson? And we'll start with you, Thomas.
A couple of months before the trial, my only sibling, my sister, became ill with cancer. She had a brain tumor and a lung tumor. She had the brain tumor removed. It looked very successful. We were hopeful. She left the hospital. She came home. There was a bouquet of flowers bigger than a door. And she said to herself, where did this come from? And there was a little poem from Michael, wishing her well.